Um, how do you think things went yesterday?
Overall, I think I did pretty decent job, and the feedback which I got, yeah, those were quite reasonable feedback in terms of like how the flow I covered for my presentation, and I think I need to squeeze the personal details in timely manner so that I could focus on. I think I was only left with one slide, but yeah, I think that time check I might need to better coordinate.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that. So why don't you pull your slide deck up and let's just take a look at it, and I'll tell you some thoughts that I had as well on what we could potentially do.
Okay.
Now, the reason that I say that is based on so pull it up and then just share your screen and we'll go from there. I'm going to go off camera because I think you're frozen and
Okay.
it may be me. I'm going to go off camera.
Okay.
No.
Me too. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, not yet, but it's coming. Oh, yep, there it is. So when I put someone forward for a test lead job, there's an assumption made when I'm trying to promote someone from a senior to a test lead that they know the technical parts of the job.
Okay.
Everybody just agrees that the technical parts of the job are there. What we're now looking for is how do they lead? How do they influence others? How do they inspire others? How do they make decisions that can impact others? How do they bring others along and develop them? That kind of stuff. Now, you had a lot of that in what you were sharing. So my thought was, though, for you to try to stay as tight to the competencies as you can in what you share. So if you go to your next slide. Yeah, so if you could do this, again, I think there are still an awful lot of words here. So what if you lost the years?
Okay.
What if you, I'm not saying do this now, I'm just saying these are some things, and just do, or just tell your story. Like I started in 2009, got my degree. Whenever I got my degree, I started in 2009 working with these large companies. I've worked with several large companies. I've been in leadership roles in most every one of those things. What I think that brings to Progressive, what I think that does for me is it gives me the perspective of big companies, big goals, the importance of delivering a quality customer experience, right? Because now you're talking about what does all that experience do for you? Not just which title you had, because your titles were fairly similar in each one of these jobs.
Yeah.
You went from a senior to a manager, a QA manager, to a lead, to a QA manager, and you worked on, as a manager, you established the team, and you could put that in there. So if I read this and I tell your story, I could make it sound something like, I began in 2009 after graduating with my degrees, and I began a career working across several large companies. I was able to go from being part of a team to leading a team to building a team. And, and I'm really quite proud of what I feel the perspective that gives me as I bring all of that experience to Progressive. It helps me to be a good team member. It helps me to be a strong team leader. And it also helps me to have a vision for what can be.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that do.
And that will take you less than a minute.
Sure.
You don't have to say it quite like that, but that is the gist, I think, of what I'm saying. You could leave the years and the companies up there if you wanted to, right? So it tells your timeline, but you have so many word. So I know Gloria said use bullet points. And you've done that really well here, maybe a little too well. Like there should be one bullet point at the top, right? I have 15 years of IT experience in, and here's how. I have my degree in computer science engineering and, postgraduate degree in international business and finance and many certifications that have allowed me to blah, 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 right? So those are some of the things. That's your education could be one bullet point.
Sure.
And then your experience could be one or two bullet points. Like maybe you have one when you were a team member, and then you have another one when you transition from being a team member to leading teams and building teams. That just could be another possible way that you could structure it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Again, and then what we missed was on the next slide. Because you didn't really tell us what any of this was.
Sorry,
Does that make sense?
what I didn't tell?
You didn't really tell us what this represented about you. You gave a very high level of that, but like, so this is my husband. This is these are my parents. This is my family and my heritage. These are some parties. These are some things I like to do. I like to travel. This is where you could use these slides, these pictures, to represent, like, where's this one that's in the middle here with has half of your face?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you traveling somewhere? The one next to it, where is that? So you like to travel. Right now you're married. You were raised in India. You did blah blah blah. You get back to see your folks every year or so. Just make this a story, not just sneak peeks into your personal space because we don't know what they represent. Does that make sense? You don't have to talk about everyone, but just talk about some of the things that these pictures on the whole represent for you. Like I look at this one with the pink and yellow flowers, right? Yeah. I have that one of those in my home that you were gracious enough to send and share with me. But that's something that you and your husband like to do together, right? You like to make these crafts and do this kind of stuff. That's a great insight into who you are as a person.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I try to explain things when I talk about like what has been my background. Like I came from India and how many siblings. I was just going through the hovering on that. Maybe that was not enough clear, but yeah, that's a valid point.
Yeah, I think that those comments about it's me and my siblings and all that stuff, but some of these pictures, represent, you could even call out, the ones on the corners are me and my family. Some of these others are from my travels. I love to travel. These are some of the places I've gone. And you could just mention 2 or 3 of the places that you've gone, right? And then the one that's different is this one with the crafting thing, or this one with these big, the whatever this bottom one is on the far left. It looks like a party, right? What is that?
This one?
What's that about?
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's just a festival gathering at home.
Yeah, but you enjoy that. You enjoy festivals and gatherings with your family and your friends. You enjoy traveling. This is a picture of you and your husband, blah, 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 blah. And some of the places that you like to travel to are, here, there, and everywhere. And you've traveled to some places domestically in the United States, as well as you've gone back to Europe and other countries where you wanted to explore more. Again, I think you could probably do it in a minute or two, but it's the who you are piece. Why do we want you? What do we think you will add to our leadership team because of the way you think about things and the way you embrace life? And, this one of you with the snow, where is that? What is that about? That's a fun one. People from India probably don't see that kind of snow very often. Is that what this is about? I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if any of this makes sense to you, but I'm just trying to think of ways
that does.
To give you insight into what we're wanting to hear. Now, the next slide, if we go to the next one. I think this is good, but I think this is a lot of why these pictures, right? Why these pictures? What do they represent to you? So if you have all the pictures in the first picture slide, and then you have you've captured these images in this slide, but yet you only talk about being empathetic, compassionate, reliable, and a friend for life. Those are really great qualities, by the way. Yay, you. And then you do the do-it-yourself work in your leisure time. Well, you could speak to some of those same things without this slide, without these images, and you could just speak to these things with those pictures you had on the first slide.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, like, for that festival that you're there with family and friends, that says, I want to be a friend for life. That's what I'm looking for. You know, the picture of the flower cutouts, that's your do-it-yourself work in your leisure time. And you could talk about some other things that you do there, another one or two types of projects that you've done. You know, but what are some things, what is it that just, I don't want you to just tell me that you're empathetic and compassionate and reliable. Show me through those pictures let those pictures represent the fact that you're empathetic, compassionate, reliable, and a committed friend for life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So if you go back to the slide 3 for a second. And you've got all of these great pictures of you with friends, right? And you with your parents, with your husband. These are any of these pictures, are they representative of a time, like the one on the top right? What is that event?
This one? Oh, top on the right. Okay. This one?
Yeah.
This was a family wedding event.
Okay. So to me, that is reliable, right? Your family can count on you. You always come back for them. You join these things, or it was really important to your family that you be there, and knowing, you know, that if it were you in that spot, you would want your family to come to you, so you make sure you do it. You know, and then you summarize with, you know, I really just strive to always be empathetic, always show compassion, and why? You know, why do you think those are qualities that you need to speak to? I think there's a couple of different ways you can go with this. But I love the talking points for slide 4, because those are character. Those are who you are. And I see every one of them. Even when you've worked with Doreen and you are compassionate about what she's going through and what's her limitations on her knowledge and her abilities, you are compassionate to not push her too fast. You are empathetic to what she might be feeling about how this stuff is going, right? Mm-hmm. But you're also reliable. She knows she can come to you if she has a question.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I was going with that. Then if we move to slide 5. I think in here, this is what they were talking about with let this tell your story. You don't have to, don't read the slide. You can, I would say that you have extensive exposure to those things, but it's not exposure, it's extensive, because exposure means I've been exposed to people that are doing team building. I've been exposed to proven leadership. I don't think that's the word that you're looking for. I think you have executed, you know, extensive execution of team building, proven leadership, management skills. You also have some typos in here, like with your comma being out there in the middle after team building. and execution may not be the right word either.
Yeah,
I need to think about this.
I'm just referring for me, so I'll make the right word choice
Yes.
after this call.
Yeah. Yeah, and then where it says team building in the first bullet point, and then there's a space, and then a comma, and then a space, you need to get rid of the space before the comma. There you go. Because those are the things that are going to catch people's eye. And because this is so competitive, I just don't want that to be what somebody fixates on, right? Because there's too many other good things in here. So I think that what you talk about here is, in my journey to growth and lead, and I don't think you need the second. In my journey to growth and to leadership. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that sentence. I'm just wondering if it could be more right. My journey of growth to leadership? I don't know. I'll think about that one. But I think what you could do here is what Mike said, and even what Brian said a little bit. How did you do this? So what? So what? What does that mean? Tell me and give me an example of a time when you had to really work on building out a team, or where you were able to use your leadership skills to help your team get what they needed from a particular client or vendor, or how you were able to use those leadership skills and team building skills to get your team to rally around end-to-end program or project delivery, right? So it's like you could leave these bullet points, although I think you should think about maybe just highlighting some of the ones that you're the most proud of. I think that you could speak to these things. Don't read them, but speak to the output of having these things in your repertoire, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm good at team building, and here's how I know I'm good at team building, or I possess great business acumen and ability to crunch information. So you could combine some of that stuff. Again, you don't have to call out every skill that you have, but you want to leverage the high value skills so that you can tell a compelling story. So they want to talk to you again. They want to then dig in and see, what else does she know? Okay. Because you've got it. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the last things Gloria said to me, because I had my one-on-one with her right after the MEDGE presentations. And she said she has a lot of experience. She has a lot to offer. And we just have to help her tell her story. And so she went on to say, so some of those bullet points, can she condense some of that? Can she maybe even just focus on some of the ones that are more high value based on some of the competencies that we're looking for? I said, okay, that helps me, but she doesn't have a doubt that you are well qualified. And it's just a matter of how do we tell people your story in a way that doesn't get them so busy looking at the words that they're not listening to you. Or that they're listening to you read to them what they could read for themselves, and they'd rather hear how you use these things to move the needle, move things forward. Because you've got a ton of complexity. You have got a ton of breadth and scope in what you know and have worked on. That's some of the stuff. And if you tell your story in a way of, these are some things I'm really proud of, whether it was from when I was first starting as a team member at whatever that first job was, whether it was with Spectrum or now Progressive. These are the tenets that I've always held on to, and that have helped make me stronger year over year, assignment over assignment. And I've been able to use those things in ways like, like if you go to soft skills, I've been able to use those things. I'm an active listener and self-motivated. So active listening is part of high impact communication, right? So, and self-motivated means that you're independent. So we don't necessarily need some of those. You could put, an active listener, or you put in here value value high impact communication by actively listening, collaborating, and adapting to new changes. Then you can put team management, interpersonal skills, develop and promote analytical. So again, this is focused on the software and the solutions, but how have you done that with the people? So there's a lot of information here on how you have worked in the technical space, but what they were really hungry for was how has your technical expertise helped you to build up your team? How have you used that acumen to move people and their careers forward, or to get them on board when maybe they weren't on board before? And I'm going to go back to an example. I don't think it's appropriate for this MEDS piece, but one of the things that impressed me about you, gosh, I don't know how long ago was that, 2 years ago, maybe almost at this point, when we had Renee and Lisa and Don on the project team. You were still a contractor at the time. But when they provided all of this feedback and they were just blasting all of these processes, all these things that you had in place, making it sound like they didn't have any support, you did not get defensive. You did not push back. You took their feedback. You let Maxine talk. You let them talk. You offered a couple of solutions and ideas and said you were willing to work with them and get it fixed. Then you and I met afterwards because I knew that wasn't right. And you told me, I've already done all these things. And I knew that from the one-on-ones that you and I had already had. But the way you conducted yourself in that setting was very powerful, because you didn't try to squash anybody. You didn't try to shut them down without listening to them fully. You let them talk. And then you came back with this is already in place. All you have to do is access it. Is there a way you want it organized differently? Then let's work on that. But everything you're asking for is really already here. We're already doing this. You just have to be willing to put the work in to get to it. And that's what they weren't willing to do.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
and I think that's how you use your soft skills, and that's how you tell your journey of growth. You've learned over time that when people bring concerns, you can't shut them down. You've got to listen. That's your active listening. Then you have to consider, what are they trying to say? What is in place? What might be needed? And you work with them to navigate through either existing or needed resources.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
you've got it. You've got it. It's in there. It's all part of the Namrata package. So it's there. Let's go to the next slide. You see, there's a lot of redundancy between slide 5 and slide 6. If you leverage these together and make them both slides about the people, like your goal-driven mindset and servant leadership. You mentioned servant leadership with authenticity a couple of times when you were saying what you were saying. I remember hearing it. Give an example of that. This is where you can really give some powerful examples. The second bullet point is another one, to give a powerful example. I think your lean advocate piece could be one of the things that you put on slide 5, right? Because you're always looking at continuous process improvement and increased efficiency. That's a skill. That's something you have. You are always thinking about what the smarter way to do it is. And you could even talk on slide 5 with an example of how you've partnered with others on the team to leverage their skills, give them the opportunity to shine in that automation space. You work so well with Aloki. You're always giving her the credit and recognition for the work that she brings in that space. Maybe there's something there that you can give just a quick snippet where maybe they want to hear more about that story. And they bring you back in for the panel interviews.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, that does.
And then aligning teams to meet business objectives. I think that this is good, right? Fostering collaborations, aligning teams to meet the objectives and fostering collaboration. That's what you do on ARE between Kool-Aid and Square every day. Every day. Because you've got two different teams with potentially different work, but yet a common goal. And so you're bringing that together. How are you bringing them together? How are you fostering that collaboration to make sure that everybody knows what the objectives are and how we're going to work together to get to them?
Sure.
And then maybe you can say that way, and then you share one really quick example, just a really short 2 or 3 sentences. Like you gave that one example about finding like the defect or I can't remember exactly which one it was, but you shared an example, and I thought that would be great right here, right? That was an example of work that you did leveraging the Kool-Aid team as well as the Square team and how you get them to work together. And then, coaching, mentoring, all of that stuff. And then this hardworking, committed cheerleader, all of that is the same kind of stuff in some ways or another, right? Mm-hmm. So you could talk about how you position, and you've got another too many spaces by your comment there too, but you've got you've got an opportunity to take 2 lines and turn it into one. But yet again, this is another opportunity where you could use a minute of your time to talk about how do you identify the developmental opportunities of somebody on your team? How do you then put the right things in place to help them gain what they need? Do you do it yourself? Do you partner with others? Is it a combination of those? That kind of stuff. The success that you've had with Doreen with just the initiative piece, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was a great story. You could potentially even elaborate a little bit more. I think this person has a ton of potential. The one thing that was in their way is they were too passive. They waited until they were asked. And by encouraging them to be more proactive, to show that initiative, to get out there and start asking for what they needed, it identified learning opportunities. So it wasn't just that we got more work done, but we identified there's a skill gap. Yeah. And she needed more of the stuff that you needed to get her, right? So that is a great mentor, coach, cheerleader of the people kind of example. Okay. And then your passion for quality, I think, is great. And the passion for quality and change management, you could potentially put those together and give an example of something where when you found all of the almost 40 defects in your project, and that's your passion for quality. You weren't going to sacrifice quality. Well, then you had to help work through and manage the change of approach and how you guys were going to execute on getting all that testing done before that February release. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
And you could say that just like that. I did some fringe testing that revealed to us that we had this big opportunity that had these things made it into production, it would have caused a serious customer impact issue. So when we found this, really high number of them right before our deadline, we then had to take a step back and navigate and build a plan. And my ability to see a big picture, understand how things fit together, I was able to help navigate that and put together that plan so we were able to still elevate with only a slight delay. Yeah. Because it was only a few weeks of a delay.
Yeah, right.
Maybe a month, I don't know. But either way, it was. But those are the kinds of examples. That's just examples I know about, Namrata. You've got so many examples that I'm sure I don't even have a clue are out there. But I'm giving you those as examples based on what I know. You may have even better ones. So let's go to the next slide, talk through that one. Why use? This is where it stopped, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't get to do all of that. So I think this again needs to be a summary, right? So these are the competencies. So I think what you do is you talk about, as I've tried to share through my story today, these are the things that I bring to the table as a leader. You know what I'm saying? Because you've already given examples of all of these in your prior story.
Yeah, right.
And I would love to share more of that with you. I'd love to learn from you as well, that kind of stuff. And then if you go to the next slide. This is, I would get rid of this, my motivational fits, because you've already said this. This is what's motivating me. I hope and commit to give back through my leadership by nurturing and empowering people, being and creating a positive influence, right? And again, you've got the comma thing going there. Creating a positive influence, okay, in the next to last bullet, promoting DEI and strong relation building. I think you want relationship building in there if you're going to use that sentence that way. And then cultivating and fostering future leaders. I think nurturing and empowering people and cultivating and fostering leaders. I think you could do nurturing and empowering people to cultivate and foster future leaders.
Can be removed?
I would move that one up to the first line. No, at the end of it. At the end, yeah, put it there. And I would put cultivating and fostering. Wait a minute. Nurturing and empowering people to cultivate and foster future leaders. So I would put two, and then put that like, to cultivate and foster future leaders. Yeah. Creating a positive. I would put being a positive influence to create sustainable success. And then I think this cross-functional networking and leveraging technical ability, those are similar, right?
Yeah.
Because they're both more technical in their orientation. So cross-functional networking to increase business knowledge, and leveraging technical agility, and learning dexterity to expand by personal growth. I don't think you need to put the embracing change, because you've already got that up here with adaptability.
Okay, so I removed that this one I'm removing, cross-functional networking, and keeping this to remove this, leveraging technical.
And I think you can combine those two. Yeah, you could still combine those two.
Okay, so I'll rephrase.
Right?
Yeah, I'll work on that. Yep.
I would try to get it down to maybe 4, because then you can add, if you have time, if you still see that you have time, you can plan to have an example of, how I hope to commit and give back through my leadership is and I would even put in here, take what you've learned from some of the leaders you've worked with at Progressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily have to be on this one, but what you've learned from working with the different PMs, what you've learned that you like and want to do more of, right? Mm-hmm. I know you've worked with Monica and Paul Harbath, and I don't remember who the other one before Tony. There was another
Julie Leonard.
Yeah, so you can look at that and see. You may want to mention something like that. Because I'm always looking to learn from other leaders, and I feel like I would like to give back because those leaders have so generously given to me, right? Something along that line, or mirroring some of the things that I've learned. I would come up with ways to say that, because there's not going to be a leader in that room that doesn't want to think that they are teaching somebody else. So that's a good way to appeal to the fact that that you can learn from others in leadership positions to make yourself stronger. I would also go so far as, I wouldn't put this in your presentation, but I would also go so far as to say other leaders will be able to learn from you, right? So you want to share what you know, and you want to continue to learn and seek growth opportunities working with other leaders.
Sure.
Something along that line, as you talk about the why you want this job, right?
Sure. So I think
talk about go ahead.
I think whatever the motivational fits I mentioned here, I can talk through a story with respect to the slide 7 content only, so we can omit this one.
Yep.
With the given examples. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. What I'd like for you to do is rework this a little bit, and then let's find some time on calendar where you could run it through with me again, or run it through with Brian.
Okay.
Because he offered to share his slides with you, and he'll tell you, he's a very recent MEDS graduate, so he would probably be a really great resource for you to work with and get his opinion on things. And then once you do that, then if Gloria said, if you want to share it with her again, if you want to set up time with the two of us, that's fine. She would love to go through it with you again, because again, she thinks you have the background, you have the skills to do it. We just now need to help you tell your story in an impactful and exciting way, right? So that they're like, oh my gosh, did you hear that Namrata girl? That kind of thing.
Sure. So I just wanted to understand, because I was an impression that this is a kind of first round, which will be kind of a selection criteria to move to the next step. So now, what is the next step after this? Is it like my chances over for this year batch, or I still have opportunity to go to the next?
There's two outcomes, right? You'll present this in the mini showcase that you're scheduled for, and then at the end of all of that, they will decide how many candidates they want to move forward, and then you'll go into an actual targeted selection interview where it will be specific things of, tell me about a time when. So that's why I'm saying you don't want to go into too much detail in any of the examples that you might share in here, or quick stories. You want to just whet their appetite, so they want to talk to you and they want to hear more, right? So, and it would be like saying, I've used XYZ gift to accomplish ABC, and the result, I love being able to share that it saved $13 bajillion, right? I'm making up stuff. But you're not going to give them the detail of how you did it. You're just going to talk about, the fact that you did it. And, I was able to leverage this, and this to save my project, 3 months, or this process change did blah, 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 right? And you'll have those. But you'll go from this, after this presentation, you could be eliminated if they decide not to move you forward. And you'll have to wait again until the next time to apply.
Okay, so I need to give, after, doing these improvements as part of the feedback, I will have another mini showcase. And if that also I don't make it, then I think I will wait for the next year program. That's what I understand?
Yes. What I'm telling you is you make these changes, and then you come back and run through it with Gloria and or me again. And then you'll go into your actual formal mini showcase presentation for the team, for the people that are making the decisions, the MEDS panel.
Okay.
Then after that, you'll either get moved forward into the formal interview process, like what you're going through now for the jobs that you're applying for.
Okay. Okay.
It'll be like that. Or you will go, or you'll be done.
Okay. So basically, still 3 more.
And if
Just
you
to
move,
just
if you move forward into the targeted selection interview process, you'll go through those questions, and then from there, they will decide ultimately who the top 5 candidates are that they want to bring into the program.
okay. Sure.
So if you don't make it that selection, then you would, again, you'd have to wait till the next time they open the program.
Sure. Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that help you with the
Yeah.
timeline?
That helps. That helps. So
Yeah,
for
so I would take, go ahead.
no, I think I'll go through that particular timeline where we have the actual target selection interview timeline, so that we can I can work on this particular mini showcase to improvise what you guys gave the feedback for.
Yeah, and I would certainly, if it were me, and I had these folks that were willing to invest in their time and give their time to you to give you their advice, I would absolutely take them up on it.
No, definitely. I was thinking to
Because
meet Brian and LB. I think LB Bete. He was also in one of the panel yesterday, so he also offered. He actually he was very generous to drop me a mail during the presentation itself, which I have seen after completing our call. So I'll reach out to them also just to see a few more
yeah,
inputs.
yep, I think that's great. I think meeting with Brian and having him share his presentation and how he went through it might give you some hints on what to bring out in your own background and experience, because clearly he was successful and he got in the program. His candidate pool might have been different, right? Blah blah blah, but you know that. And then I think absolutely LB is fabulous, so I love him, and I think that he would again be really super strong as a resource. And then when you think you've got it refined, go through it with Gloria.
Sure.
And then you'll be ready for your actual presentation, because you want to make sure you get it down to absolutely no more than 10 minutes, because they will cut you off. And you went over for Gloria before she even cut you off, and you didn't get to the last couple slides. So I don't want to see that happen. Because that's going to be an important piece, right? You've got to be able to manage those expectations in that time. And you've got so much to tell. I know you want to tell everything, but you really need to think about what are the most impactful things for someone to know about you. If you could only tell them 5 things, what would those 5 things be that you think would seal the deal for you? Now, it may be 8 things. I don't know. It depends on how much time you have.
Yeah.
But I would make sure that, and that's where I think Brian can talk to you about where to insert an example and where to just kind of potentially go through a list, because he has found that balance. So, but I'm here for you, whatever I can do. This is your story to tell. It's your presentation. You can take the things I've said, you can do something with them, you can throw them out, you can do whatever